Welcome to Financial Issues, where we join reality with truth, helping you make the most of your money by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Good morning. Welcome to Financial Issues. We're a stewardship ministry helping you make the most of your money, teaching you how to invest in a biblically responsible way, and encouraging you to be a joyful and generous giver. We call that defunding darkness and funding the light. We hope you'll find out more about our ministry at financialissues.org and listen in today. We're going to try to make some sense of Kamala Harris's proposed economic policies. We'll look at some of the latest headlines, and we're going to take your calls and questions. If you have any questions about any of the things that I just mentioned, or financial issues, or stewardship in general, get your call queued up now. If you're listening to the live program, which is happening at 8 a.m. Central Time, the number 610-363-1110. And if you're one of the first two callers, we have a couple of copies of our late founder's book, Dan Celia's book called All for the Master. It's somewhat of a little devotional, and we'll send it out to you if you are one of the first two callers. Our stewardship verse today comes from Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when the wicked rule, the people groan. Sort of handpicked, I guess, today for what we're going to be talking about. But if righteousness is our standard, I suppose at this point we could go through a long list of sins and character flaws of the one who now sits in the White House and of both of the two candidates now vying for that position. But what would really be the point? All we would end up doing is disqualifying one person after another until we find no one righteous enough, just as the scriptures say. And we would prove true what the scriptures say, that there is no one righteous, not one, because all have fallen short of the glory of God. Then we would be super disappointed to look at our balance and see an option, that there is not an option to vote for the one who is completely righteous, and that's Jesus Christ. Oh, he will reign and rule one day, not just America, but the entire world. He will rule from Jerusalem. He will definitely be for the people, but he won't be elected by the people. He will step into human history and take his rightful place as ruler of the world that he created. We can be certain that Jesus will be crowned Lord over our own lives one day, and we should immediately make that choice if we haven't already done so. But we will likely have to settle for a sinful human to become our next president this fall. How do we know which candidate is the most righteous choice possible and worthy of our vote? Well, we have to consider policies, not just people. Seth?
Well said, Shana. Yeah, it's good. I agree with you completely. None of us is righteous. Of course, rulers can be righteous by their actions, absolutely. And I do think that this is actually a sign of God's blessing on a nation. We see this throughout history, particularly in the Old Testament. For example, when David ruled, Israel was in her golden age, and David was the greatest ruler in Israel's history. On the flip side, when there were wicked rulers, that was usually to be followed by hard times, wicked times. That was usually a sign of God's judgment on a people. And basically what it is, Shana, is it's handing the people over to what they have already asked for. They've asked to rebel against God, and so God says, okay, your will be done. Go ahead and have what you want. And it really is sad. And I think it leads to our topic of the day. One of the rulers in our nation right now, some people forget that Kamala Harris is number 2 in our nation. She has sort of begun part of her campaign for the election as part of her economic policy here. And so the topic of the day is kind of her attack on corporate price gouging. Shannon, do you have any thoughts on this, just kind of as we open this up here?
Yeah, it's a broader attack on corporate America in general.
Yeah.
But, you know, one of the biggest problems that leaders are facing right now is what to do about the problem of inflation. You know, inflation has officially, the numbers have showed us that inflation has typically slowed. But if you only gain 3 pounds this week, after gaining 10 pounds a week for the last 8 weeks, you're not losing weight. You're just not getting fat as fast. And that's what's happening with inflation is prices aren't going down. They're just not supposedly going up as fast. So let's hear Kamala. I think in order to come up with a solution to a problem, you really have to understand the problem itself. So let's listen to Kamala explain to us what inflation is.
All right, thank you. Well, let's start with this. Prices have gone up, and families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more, and we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously, very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously.
Now, she went on to talk about some other things that the Biden administration had done to legislate inflation lower, like the Inflation Reduction Act, but it really displayed her ignorance of economics in general. So now, if prices have gone up, I guess the solution is just to stop those prices from going up, right?
You would think so, yeah. That would be the common sense approach. Unfortunately, common sense becoming less and less common. Shanna, what do you think this would mean for our country from an economic perspective if she is indeed elected?
Well, Seth, you're a history buff. Let's take a quick history lesson. If we go back to the early 1970s, the United States experienced a perfect storm for rising inflation. You had a number of things coming together to drive inflation up for a prolonged period of time. You had big spending on the Vietnam War. Sound familiar? You had an oil crisis where it ended up with an oil embargo, and we had high oil prices. Sound familiar? As a response, in an attempt to curb inflation, President Nixon implemented a series of price controls. Sound familiar? Hopefully it won't become familiar, but the idea in 1971, and he froze wages and prices across the economy, aiming to halt the upward spiral of cost. Initially, it seemed to work. Inflation slowed down and the economy appeared to stabilize. However, controls were a temporary fix. As the months passed, underlying economic pressures continued to build. They didn't magically go away. Businesses, unable to raise prices matching their increasing costs, began cutting production, leading to shortages of foods, which led to scarcity and, guess what, higher prices. So when the controls were lifted in 1974, the pent-up inflationary pressures were unleashed all at once. Prices skyrocketed as businesses scrambled to adjust, contributing to a sharp and painful increase in inflation. The policy, rather than preventing inflation, merely delayed it and made it worse. So the 1970s price controls ultimately demonstrated the dangers of suppressing economic forces without addressing the root cause of inflation, which is too many dollars chasing too few goods. How do we get too many dollars? Putting too many dollars into circulation by spending money that we don't have, borrowing it, printing it, and putting it out into the system. Quick reminder, those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it.
Amen to that. It's sad stuff there, Shana, because we see history repeated so often and usually not for good, unfortunately. Yeah. Shana, just to follow up here, Biden has used this term, Kamala's used this term, price gouging, corporate price gouging. What does this mean? What does it actually, and how's this happening in our country?
Well, according to Wikipedia, price gouging is a pejorative term used to refer to the practice of increasing the prices of goods, services, or commodities to a level much higher than is considered reasonable or fair by some. So it commonly is used in terms of natural disasters when, guess what, there's some type of demand or supply shock. That's exactly what we had with COVID. Not really COVID, but the response to COVID and shutting down the economy. We had these big supply chain disruptions. But, even Wikipedia got it right to mention that it was caused by a supply shock. Fixing the end price to the consumer while forcing companies to pay employees more, because she's in favor of raising the minimum wage, and will destroy corporate America. Corporations have always existed to make money. The pursuit of making profit generated the world's greatest economy by spurring on innovation, employing people who then had jobs and had money to spend and got money flowing through the economy. Capping the top line or revenue of a corporation while forcing the human component or input costs to go up will only cause layoffs as companies search for ways to increase productivity, even forcing the replacing of humans with AI. I've got more to say about that, but the music's quickly approaching, so we got to take a break, and then we'll come back, and I'll finish my thoughts.
We are indeed facing into the wind of this cultural holocaust to try to provide loving, compassionate, Christ-centered answers to these women. The greatest thing they need is the ability to make sound judgment decisions in their life, and that comes from the Lord Jesus Christ, a heart change that only He can bring. So we're evangelists to these women on behalf of the Financial Issues audience, and helping them to be able to move forward with wisdom in their lives when they come in, not just to save the life of their baby, but also to save the soul of the mom and the baby eventually as well. It's one thing to talk about it, but it's certainly another thing, and so encouraging to see the pro-life ministry, a financial issue stewardship ministry, take a stand on this thing and do something so effective as we've done.
Yes, sir.
Go to financialissues.org/preborn to learn more about preborn.
Navigating through investment options can be challenging, especially when you're determined to uphold your God-given values. Every dollar you invest is a vote for the world that you want to live in. Let your values guide your investment decisions and help to shape the culture in which we live. Become a beacon of light and pave the way with biblically responsible investing. Timothy Plan, where faith and finance collide. Before investing, carefully consider the fund's investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the investment company. This and other important information can be found in the fund's prospectus. To obtain a copy, visit timothyplan.com or call 800-846-7526. Read each prospectus carefully before investing. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. Phone lines are open. We'll be getting to some calls as soon as I finish up my thoughts here from the last segment. 610-363-1110 is the phone number, and we'll have a special gift to send out to you if you're one of the first two callers. 610-363-1110 if you're listening live. All right, so we were talking about Kamala Harris, and she's unveiled her economic plan. I don't know if it's much of a plan or just a bunch of talking points to try to extend the honeymoon, so to speak, that she's had as she's come out as the Democratic, the presumptive, well, I guess, is she officially the Democrat nominee, or do they do that at the end?
I think she's officially it now, which is fascinating because there was no election, apparently. She was just chosen as the one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, probably talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. But let me finish my thoughts before the train derails here. So, capping the top line revenue of a corporation, which is controlling their prices, not allowing grocers to increase their prices, while forcing the human component of input cost up, because she probably is going to say that The employees at the grocery stores need to make more money. You can't raise your prices, but you need to pay your people more. And by the way, folks, the margin for grocers is about 1 to 2%. So you squash out that profit, and what do? You put companies out of business. And then what? Well, that opens the door for government bailouts, which is more government control. So, if that's not allowed, that corporations will adjust, and they always have found ways to be innovative and cut costs. If that's not allowed, if their input costs are controlled and their top line prices are controlled, then corporate profits are going to shrink and probably disappear. The corporations will either go out of business or need those big government bailouts. Small government and free market capitalism is the economic solution. But the powers that be don't like that solution because you actually have to be productive and innovative to become rich in that kind of environment instead of being able to enrich yourself as a career politician.
Yep. It would be great if our career politicians were not career politicians, but actually knew a thing or two, Shana. It's been a consistent talking point.
Kamala worked at McDonald's.
That's true. She did. Good for her. That's right. Well, a consistent talking point for the Biden-Harris admin for the last 4 years, Shana, has been kind of this blaming of the economic issues, not on the elected policies, but more on corporate greed. Can you speak to this for a moment? Why are they doing this?
Right. This is their whole, we're going to build America back from the bottom up and middle out. This is a definite school of thought in economics, one that I don't subscribe to, obviously. But, they need a scapegoat so that they can present the solution to become heroes. They must divert attention from the real causes of inflation, their clean energy policy, the suppression of our use of fossil fuels that drove oil prices up, the reaction to COVID. Some group unleashed a pandemic in the world that had an easy and cheap remedy in the form of an FDA-approved drug that was already out there, but instead fear and lies were circulated about its severity, the severity of COVID, and the cheap and easy cure was all but outlawed in favor of expensive drugs and quote-unquote vaccines with side effects worse than the actual virus in most cases. The economy was completely shut down, creating a shortage of goods and causing supply chain problems, while taxpayer and borrowed money flooded our economy in the form of COVID stimulus. So the Democrats, they project on corporate America by saying that inflation is caused by corporate greed that is causing higher prices. It's not only price controls that she wants to implement, but it's the continuing war on corporate America that the Biden administration and Democrats long before them have waged. They want, I heard this morning or yesterday, she wants a corporate tax increase from 21% to 28% and favors mandatory minimum wages. See, she essentially wants the government to redistribute the wealth. That's what they say. They want to redistribute the wealth rather than allowing private markets to operate freely and efficiently. The government is not efficient in anything that they do. All you have to do is take a look at the budget, and Rand Paul puts out a list of pork barrel spending every year that sometimes I guess would be quite comical if it wasn't so sad. Yeah. But, building from the bottom up and the middle out hinges on trusting the lower and middle class to deploy capital into the economy. Okay, so the government takes money from the rich, making them pay their fair share. They give the money to the lower and the middle class to deploy. They're trusting them to deploy that capital into the economy so that they will buy goods and services from corporations. But the government will keep the corporations from making too much money by taxing them and controlling their inputs, which is labor. So I, on the other hand, take the opposite view. I believe in a free and fair markets economy where corporations have accountability to shareholders, to be efficient, to make money in the most efficient ways. That in turn, when they sell more things, they create more jobs, then more people have money to spend. That money goes back into the economy. It's circulated. Corporations make more money. They create more jobs, so on and so forth. So, we can spend our way in prosperity, as the Democrats would have us believe that we can do, or we can grow our way into prosperity, which is what the Republicans suggest that we do. So don't think that we're just bashing Democratic policies. We'll be taking a look at President Trump's economic plans tomorrow.
Yeah. Shana, I think that's a really good point there you mentioned at the end. We're just looking at the facts. I mean, we're looking at what Kamala Harris has said. This is not a discriminatory attack on one political party. We're looking at what both parties are offering, and we're reacting to that simply. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, we are. And we're a financial show, so we're going to talk about the economics of it, and that is what's on people's mind. And for the most part, that's going to determine how most people vote as to who they think can do a better job with the economy and, make their own personal economic situation better. They're going to vote for that candidate. But, the bigger issues are really the ones that we get criticized for being single issue voters on, and that's, you got to look at the two platforms and what their main agendas are. What do they believe about life? Yeah. Is it sacred or not sacred? Should the unborn be protected, or should women have the right to do whatever they want to their own bodies and to the body that's growing inside of them? I caught a very small part of the DNC last night, and it was the part where they had all of these people up there giving their testimonies about how abortion saved their lives. And, it was really isolated kind of circumstances where a woman who was actually married and pregnant, and they wanted their baby, and her baby died, but because of Trump's ban on abortion, which is just full of inaccuracies, but she had to go home and wait until she was almost dying before she could have her baby, her dead baby, aborted. And then another person who got up there and gave a testimony that she was sexually abused by her stepfather as a child, which is incredibly sad, and she became impregnated at the age of 12 and, was just eternally grateful that she was able to have an abortion. And, those are kind of the exceptions rather than the rule, I think. Yeah. But, God is the author of life, and every life, regardless of how it gets here, is precious, and we don't have the right to take that life.
Amen. Amen.
And then to know that, they're giving out what was it? Free abortions.
Yeah, it was free abortions and free vasectomies. You talk about a political party that apparently doesn't hate children. They're literally killing children and trying to keep people from having children. It's disgusting. And then
they label it as we love families,
disgusting.
So we want to do this. It's just I don't know. If you can't see the hypocrisy in that, then your eyes have really, really been blinded.
Yeah.
So,
amen. Lord, come.
Well, yes, that's why we encourage defunding darkness through biblically responsible investing and funding the light. And one of the best ministries that you can support to fund the light and push back against the darkness of abortion that we just heard is Preborn Ministries. So you can find out information about Preborn Ministries and how they put ultrasound machines in crisis pregnancy clinics in an attempt to save babies' lives, but they also preach the gospel to the mother and the father if he will show up, so that their eternal lives can be saved. And it's not just saving the baby's life and then not caring about what happens. They provide support to the mother and the baby in the form of formula, clothes, diapers, and things like that, even after the baby is born. Well, folks, we have issued another cell alert this week. Early yesterday, we sent out an alert for, and I don't have the ticker symbol on it, but it was a consumer discretionary stock.
CD38, Shana.
38. Okay.
CD38, yep.
So CD38, which did just report earnings today. Luckily, the price hasn't moved a whole lot last time I looked. So if you haven't seen that alert, go ahead and take action on it. I was concerned. It is in the retailing sector, and after Home Depot reported kind of some concerning and disappointing and more of the same kind of things about the consumer and home improvements, this particular company was set to report today, and they did indeed do it. But they are, although they were for a long time considered kind of the conservative alternative to that Home Depot company who was supporting the LGBTQ agenda by supporting gay pride parades, and you saw them wearing their Home Depot what are they called, aprons, and dressed up in these gay pride parades, and it was really kind of sickening. Unfortunately, Lowe's is following in their footsteps. So there is a petition on our website. Whether you own the company or you don't, whether you're a partner or not, please go sign that petition. We're asking the company, and you'll be able to see what the name of the company is just by going to the website, but you'll be able to see what they're doing and what we're doing to try to get them to stop. So zero tolerance. We're going to sell them because they're doing it. But if they ever want to have a chance to be back on our list, then they're going to have to do an about face and stop supporting the garbage that they're supporting. So go check that out. Well, folks, our phone lines are still open, and are we coming up on the break?
We are coming up on the break. I'm not hearing any bumper music, but we are coming up on the break here.
There
we
it is.
go.
Okay. All right. Well, our phone lines are open. 610-363-1110 is the phone number.
Through the ministry of Preborn, the Financial Issues family has saved tens of thousands of lives of babies. What an amazing job that God has done through you, the Financial Issues family. Would you join us in saving the lives of babies? What an amazing reunion we will have in glory, meeting all the people that we have saved. Please go to preborn.org, that is preborn.org, or financialissues.org, and click on the Preborn banner.
Here at FISM News, our mission is to provide you with news from a source you can trust.
The news is a constant reminder that this world is not our home. It is marred by sin, resulting in wars, brokenness, and divisiveness.
Jesus promised that he will return soon to judge sin and make all things new.
Until then, we place our hope in him.
This is the good news, the most important truth we feel compelled to share.
Today, it's easy to get caught up in the rush and forget about what really matters. But when it comes to your money, are you making decisions that truly reflect your values? Too often, we invest in stocks without knowing what they stand for. What if your money could speak for what you believe in? Imagine following an investment strategy that recommends companies that don't support the things that break the heart of the Lord. A steadfast strategy, never wavering from biblical truth. When your investments align with your values, your money speaks for you. Let your money do the talking. Invest in what matters to you. Because biblical values matter, even when investing. Visit financialissues.org to learn more. That's financialissues.org.
As a member of Samaritan Ministries, your monthly share is a gift that goes directly to a real person in need. While that share takes care of the financial portion of a need, medical needs are complex and include the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects as well. While the financial gift is important, if we stop there, we miss an opportunity to minister to the whole need of our brother or sister. When you faithfully pray and send a note of encouragement and scripture along with your share, those words become a vessel of God's continued healing and blessing on the receiver. And the impact it has is immeasurable, bringing glory to God and provision and unity to His church. Glorify God with your health care. Send a note this month.
Securities offered through G.A. Reppel & Company, a registered broker-dealer and investment advisor, member FINRA and SIPC. Opinions expressed by Shana are hers alone and are for informational purposes only and do not necessarily represent those of G.A. Reppel or the outlet on which you are listening. You should consider how the information applies to your situation prior to personally implementing it and consult any financial professional you work with to make sure it's applicable to your financial plan.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. I see someone coming into the call queue to claim the giveaway that we're giving away today. It's called All for the Master. It is a book that was written by our beloved late founder, Dan Celia. Dennis is going to get that book, and we'll get to Dennis's call here in a minute. But let's take a look at the markets. Yesterday, the markets opened the week in relatively positive territory following a massive comeback last week. By midday, the indices were comfortably in the green, and by the closing bell, the Dow was up. Oh, goodness. Let's see if I can get... Not working. Can't get to it. What do you have there, Seth?
I've got, Shana, the Dow finished, you're talking about yesterday's numbers?
Yeah.
Dow finished just above a half percentage point. The S&P was up almost a full percent, and the NASDAQ finished 1.39%. So good day for the markets yesterday.
Yeah, good day for the market.
Yeah.
Pre-markets were pretty much in negative territory this morning. They have opened in mixed territory. The Dow is slightly down. The NASDAQ and S&P are hovering around the flat line in positive territory just a little bit. So we did the commentary for the partners this week is a little bit longer than usual, but man, it was good. We had some great great conversation and some great input from the team, and you can read some of what we wrote there for the partners. I thought it was really good this week. So. FinancialIssues.org. Log in as a partner. If you're not a partner, become one. It's just $132 a year. You get access to a little bit more of our inside thoughts of what's happening, more than what we say, than we have time to say usually on the show. Plus, you get a way to practically act out the advice or based on the things that we think are happening in the economy, by putting into practice the asset allocation models and the buy list, which, by the way, there are some things back on the buy list. Make sure that you go read the commentary, though, to see how we're trying to position this. All right, let's get to Dennis. Dennis is calling from California. Hi, Dennis. You're live on Financial Issues.
Hey, Dennis, are you with us, brother?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Hey, good morning. We got you, my man. How are you?
Awesome. Doing great. Thanks, Seth.
You're welcome. And congratulations on your copy of All for the Master, by the way. Yeah. First caller.
Yes, I just, out here in California at 6:30 in the morning. So I just happened to have my question ready. And thank you for the book. Appreciate that.
Wonderful. All right. Let's do it.
So my question is regarding money market accounts in a brokerage account or in any investment account through through our investment platform. As we went out there and looked at money market accounts, just found that there's such a variety of different money market accounts that we can invest in. Are there? I know that Financial Issues on the cash portion, I think it's C35. Is that the one that you guys recommend, or can we really look at any of the money markets that are out there and just see, what rate we want to go with, even though they're, maybe Vanguard or some other type of company? Are they BRI? Does it matter? I just need some assistance with that type of, looking up a money market account. Sorry for rambling.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I guess, and I don't have my list in front of me, is the C35, is that the just the generic one, the ticker number that starts with an F?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So that's just a generic one that we have to hold places in the tracker, because you have to have something. But you can use the ticker symbol for the money market that you actually have. And then because to your point that there are many different brokerages out there, many different choices for money market funds, we didn't want to put just one or just a couple because we didn't want to make any distinction there. There's a lot of different choices. So whichever discount brokerage account that you use, you can use the ones that they offer. I would just, compare them. You're going to want to make sure that it has a stable value. So, like it's every share is worth $1. And then you're also going to want to look at the one that pays the biggest yield, and kind of go in that direction. If you're in a really high tax bracket and you have a taxable type of account, you could even consider their tax-free option.
Okay. That's another thing to look into. I really appreciate it. So wondering about, BRI. BRI is our number one investment rule in our household. So is that a consideration with regards to money markets?
No, not really, because they're considered to be, debt type of investments. They're usually made up of T-bills or things like that, government securities. So just because it may be Vanguard or Fidelity, and by nature they're not BRI, you're not actually investing in them. They're just the ones that have put together the money market investment.
Perfect. Thank you, Shana. Appreciate your answer. I think that worked out really well. Perfect.
Great.
Thank you very much. God bless Seth, Darlene, and the staff. Really appreciate you guys and all that you do for us, and really appreciate the buys on the buy list. Thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thanks, Dennis. We appreciate you too.
Yep. And hey, stay strong out there in California. The remnant.
Will do.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely. Well, the phone lines are open now, folks. 610-363-1110. And we've got one more copy of All for the Master to give to the next caller. 610-363-1110. How about we turn our attention to either social or...
Let's do it here, Shana. Got time for one here. RD is this partner here. RD has a small account, has 2 stocks, keeps them above the 65 and up in the 55-65 allocation. He only had 20 shares of TE1, went to a pretty high amount before he sold 5 shares. Along with it, TE91 took him overweighted. He bought 5 shares of that, sold some of TE91, more TE1. Basically, his question, Shana, is should I further reduce my tech stocks? I got 2 years till full retirement age and I will need Social Security. I'll start withdrawing interest on my stocks about that time for fun or buying new curtains, etc. I have a seasonal job 4 months out of the year. What advice would you have for RD?
So, my biggest advice would be to follow your asset allocation model. So if you're in the 65 plus model, then, you probably do. I don't know how many tech stocks you still have left, but historically, tech stocks don't provide a lot of income. So, I'm reading into your statement here where you say that you're looking to withdraw the interest, I guess you mean dividends, on your stocks to kind of supplement your income. If that's the case, I would probably consider staying in the 65 model and following that asset allocation, looking to reposition some of that money in more income-producing stocks. If your goal, though, is just if Social Security is going to be your primary income and you don't really need a whole lot of income, maybe you have more of a growth mentality, you may want to consider a different asset allocation model, maybe a younger age to do that. But if you're going to stay in the 65, follow the asset allocation model, which means that you need to diversify into some other sectors. Well, folks, we have the Ag Report on deck. We're going to hear from Craig Haugaard. We're going to take a break after that, and we'll be back with more financial issues.
This is Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for August 20th. Well, corn found bottom pickers after hitting a new contract low last week. The U.S. is looking competitive, and low prices have inspired some buying. In fact, last week's weekly export inspections were better than expected at 45.9 million bushels. Now, the dollar also broke sharply yesterday and traded at the lowest point since January. That was perceived as good for exports and thus supportive to grain prices. At the close, December corn was 7 3/4 cents higher at $4.60 $2.25 per bushel. Soybeans got off to a good start with the USDA announcing the sale of 16.2 million bushels of new crop soybeans, mainly to China, with some also marked for a unknown destination. Toss in the weaker dollar and some profit taking, and we had all the ingredients we needed for a positive session. November beans were 19 cents higher at the closing bell, settling out at $9.76 per bushel. Wheat was unable to hitch a ride on the coattails of corn and beans and finished the day mixed. Minneapolis December wheat was 5.5 cents lower at $6.03.5. Kansas City was a penny and a half higher at $5.56.5, and Chicago was a 1/4% lower at $5.52 Cotton futures gapped higher and never looked back. At the close, we had December futures up 144 points as they closed out today at 68.68. Livestock futures were mixed. October live cattle were 72.5 cents higher, $179.02 per hundredweight. October feeder cattle were 7.5 cents lower as they settled out at $235.87.5 per hundred. And October lean hog futures rose by $1.72.5, ending the session at $76.80 per hundredweight. Class 3 milk futures were back to the races as they set a new life of contract high. When that closing bell rang, we had September futures up 39 points as they ended the day at $22.30 per hundredweight. This has been Craig Haugaard with your Financial Issues Ag Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
Fear and uncertainty can cause us to hold things tightly and rely on ourselves. But during uncertain times, as believers in Christ, we are called to surrender fully to our sovereign God. The call to surrender to Jesus is one step in our growth in holiness. And it doesn't just mean you give over a few things. It means He gets it all, including our finances, our investments. Learn a biblically responsible investment strategy proven over 25 years. Keep the money God has entrusted to you out of companies that participate in things that God detests. Fully surrender. Become a Financial Issues Partner today. Learn more by going to financialissues.org/join. That's financialissues.org/join.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay, or to go, to remain the same, or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common, the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Welcome back to Financial Issues. We've got a few more minutes to get your call queued up. Got one more copy of All for the Master today. This is a book that was written by our founder, Dan Celia. And you can be the blessed new owner of it by getting your call queued up now. 610-363-1110 is the number. All right, let's, I guess we should finish out the home stretch with answering some of these questions.
Let's do it, Shana. That's good. Gary is up first here. Gary's asking about the Timothy funds. He's got about $10,000 he'd like to invest for new grandbaby due in 2 weeks. Congratulations to you, Gary. Yes. That's wonderful. Education, obviously, in 18 years or so. What would you recommend? He's saying option one is put it into a mutual fund from Timothy, about $1,000 a month for 10 months, lump sum into the same mutual fund or funds, or invest it using a diversified portfolio for an under 20 age group. Since nothing is on the buy list at the time were not much now. He wrote this last week. Should I wait entirely or should I use the Timothy model of funds? He's 67. What do you think, Shana?
Yep, that's a great question. So, Gary, I can tell you have been listening closely, and you understand the tenets of the partnership and putting money in on a regular basis. So here's kind of how you decide. We have two different types of asset allocation models. One is made up of just mutual funds and ETFs, and we use the Timothy Plan because the Timothy Plan is the pioneer in biblically responsible investing. So Timothy Plan is a mutual fund company. So they have like 13 different mutual funds. So they offer a full suite from fixed income all the way to international, growth, value, small cap, large cap, all of that. So you can really build a diversified portfolio with those mutual funds. The Timothy Plan is sold out for biblically responsible investing. So they created the Evaluator program. They spend a lot of their own money on researching companies to make sure that they don't contribute shareholder dollars to funding the darkness is what we call it here. So they are committed to biblically responsible investing. And whenever you use their funds and ETFs, you're taking a little bit of a less hands-on approach. You're hiring their money managers to build and manage your portfolio for you. You just have to get the money deployed. That's kind of, and rebalance it from time to time. Now, on the flip side of that, if you prefer a more hands-on strategy, then you could choose just the investment strategy where you're going to build your own portfolio out of individual stocks. We do include some of the Timothy funds in that asset allocation as well for areas that's a little bit harder for us to screen, like international and some of the fixed income components that the Timothy Plan has. So it really just depends on how hands-on you want to be and how much transparency you want to know. You can rest assured that either route you go, you're going to be biblically responsible, whether it's building your own portfolio using our blueprint or using the Timothy funds. But there's just a little bit more activity, a little bit more responsibility you have if you do the individual strategy.
Good stuff, Shana. And Gary's question there, it's an interesting one about an under 20 age group. When you're saving for, say, an infant or a young child, is it good to use one of the models like the 20 to 45, or is it better to just focus on a saving, growing mindset?
Yeah, one of the things that we're kind of toying with is eliminating the ages from the different models.
Okay.
Just because the ages assume that you're going to retire at age 65. And so it has everything to do with managing risk, having lower risk, less volatility as you get closer to actually using the money and having a more growth focus when you're younger. So, in this case, if it was a newborn and you were just saying, this money is for something in the future longer than 10 years out, but, it could be used in 18 years when they go to college, or it could be used in 25 years when they get married and buy their first house. It really depends on your time horizon. So, the further that time horizon is from the time to use it, if you were going to invest for a 10-year-old and it's for college in 8 years, well, you really don't have, the 40 years that the 20 to 45 model assumes that you have, right? You have a shorter time horizon until you're actually going to need to use that money. So you probably need to be a little bit more conservative. So, we've toyed around with doing away with the ages, but right now we have them kind of grouped as ages and objectives. So, the youngest model is really growth focused, Whereas, on the flip side of that, the older models are really start to focus more on income and trying to lower or limit volatility.
Yeah, great stuff. Thank you for that, Shana. David is up next here. David is 77 and a half. He's been with FISM a long time. After some recent sells, he's got 35% in cash, about 15% in T-bills through 2025, some through 2026. If the communists, spelled KH as in Kamala communist, win the election, I'm afraid they're going to take all the T-bills. So at almost 78, should I hold cash until after the election in order to withdraw prior to 2025 if they succeed in taking over?
Well, unless you're talking about greenback cash, you're probably talking about still holding T-bills, because a lot of money markets are made up of T-bills and government-issued securities. But the answer to my question would really be, let's stop and think about this. It's really another question. How would they take the bills, right? In order to take the bills, they have to pay them off. What are they going to pay them off with? More debt? And if they issue more debt, it's going to be in the form of bills and bonds. So, I would say that, Warren Buffett is a very widely respected investor in the investment community. Most people know who he is. He's got a very successful track record. And, one of the things that people have kind of keyed in on recently is he sold a lot of his Apple stock right before that little tiny mini market correction that we had for a couple of weeks, and people started to say how brilliant he was again. But where did that money go? There was another article connected with one that I read that talked about his Apple stock, and he says that said that he is the largest holder of T-bills.
Yeah,
even more so than the Fed. So that was very interesting to me. So if Warren Buffett is not really concerned about the government, taking the T-bills, then, how founded is that fear? So
yeah,
I would say if we get to that point where the government's confiscating assets, we've got far bigger problems, and there's probably not going to be anywhere to hide.
Yeah. Well said, Shana. That's good. I know we got one more call in the queue if you want to get to Alejandro before
All
we
right,
get into the
let's
show.
do it.
Yeah.
All right, Alejandro, you are live on Financial Issues.
Hello, Shana.
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
I got you.
Loud and clear.
Okay. Good morning to you all. I'm calling for this reason. I think I talked to you guys some time ago. My wife just got disability, and she managed to keep some benefits from work, but one of them that is not going to keep is contributions for retirement, for the 401k. My question is this. As I remember, you guys mentioned that in order to have IRAs, you have to actually be working and get an income.
You do. You have to have earned income.
Okay. So disability and Social Security is not considered income, or it does?
Not for those purposes. So
okay.
You have to have like some W-2 wages, or, it can't be passive income.
Perfect. That's what I thought, but I just wanted to confirm with you. So my question is this. What options do I have in order to help her to build something for retirement whenever she qualifies for retirement? So since she is going to have a very, very small one because she stopped contributing now and it's still some years to go. So what can I do to help her out? Investment accounts or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to want to check if she's getting disability from the government. There are, some rules, and I'm not well versed on those, but about what kind of assets you can accumulate and be able to still keep the benefits. But hey, if you're able to, to save money and put yourself into a position and she's able to go back to work or keep working, then maybe the need for disability goes away. I don't know much about your particular situation. But yes, I mean, I would say an investment account is a great option to consider.
Okay, well, but I have to check about restrictions from qualifying for that. Okay, perfect. Guys, I just want to say something. We just remember Dan Celia saying that we will not succeed if we are not unified. So let's be unified and contribute to financial issues. Just comment and make Facebook to put the show before some other people.
Thank you,
Alejandro. Thank you for encouraging those.
brother.
We are a listener and partner supported ministry. So, folks, we hope that you will find out more about our ministry and consider giving by going to financialissues.org. Lord willing, we'll be back tomorrow to help you in your stewardship become a good and faithful steward.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.